everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 51 of Monster. And last episode was pretty rough. Grimmer has made a note, and he's going to turn it in to get Sook off the hook, but at the price of him being hunted down by the law and potentially being on the run for the rest of his life. And Grimmer doesn't seem to have a problem with it because he's the Magnificent Steiner. Grimmer's just a name. He can do whatever, but he's leaving the story, and I'm so freaking sad. And now Tenma has been caught by the police trying to help a kid. Lunge is in Prague and is trying to track down information about the man in the Rose Mansion who seems uber creepy and could be the father of Nina and Johan. And there's all this mystery surrounding this current storyline. Like, I felt like the mystery was surrounding the cassette tape. No, that was a red herring. That was to lead us to the real mystery of the Rose Mansion. The cassette tape was just whatever. But the cassette tape was a narrative device. It was MacGuffin. But the Rose Mansion seems to be the big mystery at the heart of Prague, where this true terror lies. And so I'm really excited to find out about this, but I'm also really nervous because Tenma's by himself again with the police. Don't like that. Maybe Lunge can team up with him. I don't know. And the only good thing to come out of this is that Grimmer's not dead. It's the only good thing is that Grimmer lives to see another day by exiting the plot temporarily. So I don't know, y'all. At this point, I have no clue what's going on. I have no clue what's going to happen next. Every episode, the last 3 or 4 episodes, have been not big, huge reveals, but reveals that you go, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I did not think about that. And then here where we are. So the only comment I have is from Alhura, who says that it's interesting that Tenma orders their coffee black without cream and sugar, which goes back to the idea of Rosso, who said that it's easy to kill if you forget the taste of sugar. And is that a sign? They said it was like Tenma becoming a killer, but I'm like, I don't necessarily, Tenma's technically already killed Roberto, but I do think it's a sign that Tenma's resolve for hunting down Johan and killing him hasn't gone away, which I was hoping that Tenma would maybe see the overarching problem, that the problem necessarily isn't Johan. Johan is a problem, don't get me wrong, but he's not the problem. The problem is the system that Grimmer was trying to expose and prevent from recreating. So now that Grimmer is gone, my fear is that that system we were worried about isn't going to be the focus. It's going to be Johan again. So, and I'm still concerned about Nina getting confused for Anna. That still bothers me. I don't like it. I have no clue what to suspect, but that was a good observation, Alhura. So thank you for pointing that out. But yeah, we're on episode 51. And I'm just in the dark, as all of you are, to see what's going to happen next. So real quick, I want to give a special shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon to thank you all so much for supporting me and this series and helping me to get the manga to talk about with you all as we go, and just in general being amazing people. So thank you to the subscribers on YouTube. Thank you for those on Patreon that are able to support me, and a special thanks to those in the philanthropy tier. These amazing people: Edgar, Dana, Alex Cornejo, Kiri, Be Happy, Tyrone, Anime Annie, Sunspots, Translucent Min, Shimoyama, Nameless Monster, Anna, Goob, Matthew Palfinier, Ashy Got Snow Bitches, Trails, Zakiel, Sock, and Destiny Marie. Thank you all so much for all of your support. I really appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, no clue where we're going. No, not a clue. It feels weird. The last several episodes I've been like, oh, I don't know exactly where we're going with this. You know, for a while we had a linear plot and we had missions to solve, and now I don't know. And we're in kind of a weird point of the story where we're not near the third act. We're still very much in, or we're not in the third out of 3 acts, and we're not really into the 4th out of 4 acts. So we're just kind of in this weird limbo. I don't know how to feel about it. But we'll find out, right? So we're going to start episode 51 of Monster and see what we get here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Well, this was a very weird episode. The last 2 weeks have been very weird episodes because they both felt like transition episodes, which is about right, because we talked several weeks ago about transitioning into the final act, right? And so we've talked about this, that I'm going to get out my handy dandy calculator. We got 74 episodes, right? So using my handy dandy calculator, if you have 74 episodes and you divide that by 4, it's about 18 to 19 episodes per series, right? So if you do that, then you get roughly, again, we'll go back to this idea that Act 1 was around 18 to 19 episodes. And then we could talk about Act 2, which is the big plot, going on to like 19 or 20 over to 37 and 38 being the episodes, which that rounds out about right? Because it's around the time the main conflict is established of Johann being this force of evil and the library burning and everything and the monster with no name. It's all brought out in that regard. So again, Act 3 would be, if we go with that, and let's just say episode 38 plus 19 episodes, is 57. So plus Act 3 is the idea of, let's say, episode 38 to 56 or 57 is Act 3. And this is the episode with all of the twists, right? And that would lead our final act, which is, the final act. Let's go back and let's just say 57 plus 18 is 75. So let's say 56. Episode 56 is the twist act. And then episodes 57 through 74 is our climax and resolution. Is essentially the stage that we're setting at this point. So yeah, we're on episode 51. So I would say, if it were me, I would say that our twists that are yet to come are with the Red Rose Mansion. And Tenma's conviction. Right? That would be where our biggest twists are going to come, with Tenma's convention and the Red Rose Mansion and the monster tied to that, right? So this episode is called The Monster's Love Letter. Oh my gosh. Which we're going to talk about the Monster's Love Letter. It's a little bit disturbing. A wee bit. And we're going to talk about it. But I feel like those are the twists that are going to come out at this point, and that these episodes are kind of setting things in motion to set up for those twists. And I thought that maybe the secret police would get involved because they know Tenma, but they're transporting Tenma back to Germany, so that's not going to really be much help, because then he's out of the Czech Republic, so the Czech police really won't have any authority. Even the secret police won't be able to work behind the scenes. So, now, of course, there's Grimmer, who could still get out and help Tenma, but I don't think he's going to at this point. I think Grimmer is out of the picture for a little wee bit while. But Reichwein, God, it was so good to see Reichwein. We'll go through this and talk about them. So yeah, I think that any twists, we have 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. We have 5 episodes until technically the 4th act will start. So in those 5 episodes, a lot can happen. And Eva's back in the picture. Her crazy ass is back. I don't know what to think about that. I'm like, oh, she could do some damage or she could help. Who knows what she's going to actually do. And so let's kind of set the stage of where everybody's at this point. I feel like that's probably needed. So what we have at this point in the story, we have Tenma in custody. Tenma is in custody and on his way to Germany. All right. In Germany, we know that Rudy is there. We know that Carl is there with the Baron. That whole deal there. So we know they're all there too. And the Baron wants a lawyer team to help Tenma, because he believes that Tenma is the only one that can face Johann. He told Reichwein that we'd take a monster to kill a monster, and he thinks that Tenma is the one to do it. So Tenma right now is on his way to Germany, right? And Grimmer might be in Germany, but we don't know. We're going to put him off to the side because we just don't know. Meanwhile, in Prague, as far as we know, Johann is still over there. Although Johann may already be in transit to Germany. He may have already jumped ship and been like, bye, and saw that Tenma was arrested and was like, I'm going to Germany to go torture him there. So, but I don't know. Johann is kind of this big question. Johann's kind of like Grimmer. We don't really know. We know Grimmer's objective, which is to stop Kinderheim from repeating, but we don't really know Johann's objective. Johann's objective is pretty we don't know. So he could still be in Prague. Will he go? So I guess will he go follow Tenma to Germany? Or will he stay in Prague for answers to whatever question he needs answers to? Oh. So we don't know about Johann, right? We know that Anna and Dieter are in Prague, which, here's the thing. Anna is the mom's name. The mom's name is Anna. And so is Anna, Anna's a fake name. So it makes sense now. Johann and Anna are named after the monster and the monster's love. That's who they're named after. You have the monster that has the name of Johann in the book. And then you have their love, who is Anna, which we'll go back to. And in the draft stages of the novel, we have that. So yeah, Anna and Dieter are in Prague. Will they go back to Germany? I would say so. Probably to chase after Tenma. Probably. And then Reichwein is with Eva. Which, dear God, if Eva meets Anna, she's going to be like, oh, are you young hussy here with Tenma? And she's going to be like, what? Eva is such a concern. It's one of those things where I'm like, I can't trust Eva any further than I can throw her. And she's so unpredictable. Like, she has such a complex where you don't know if she's going to be like, she clearly is going to try to use her position of power to influence Tenma to like her again, because that's what she wants. But then when she won't get her way, because Tenma's obviously not going to like her, then she's going to go flipping off the handle. So she's so unpredictable, and it's a threat. You just don't know what she's going to do. And then we have Lunge. Of all the people who could go back to Germany, when Lunge first showed up in Prague, I was like, well, if Tenma ever leaves, Lunge's going to chase after him. But that's not really what Lunge is after anymore. Lunge's priorities have kind of changed. Now he's following the case with Johann and the Red Rose Mansion over Tenma. And I feel like Lunge kind of sees the writing on the wall, probably. He's a detective. He knows how this works. Lunge's probably like, yeah, Tenma's probably going to get a counselor. He's going to get a lawyer. Trials are not something immediate. Trials take time. And so Lunge's probably like, oh, I've got time. Lunge's got to go to Germany. He's got to get a lawyer team set up. He's got to even get the trial started. They got to go through evidence, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I don't really need to go back anytime soon. I got at least a week to worry about the stuff that I'm dealing with here. So Lunge's kind of just like, I'm still on vacation, which is hilarious. And then we have Suk. Now, Suk is trying to, he's been told by Lunge to dissect the situation. I find it really interesting that he's been influenced by Lunge. And so the question is Suk going to go after Johann as Anna to try to find answers? So, and could those answers be tied back to Tenma? Because Suk's been saved by Grimmer. And I'm glad that Suk didn't say anything, because I was like, look, Grimmer did you a solid. Don't be screwing up when he tried for you. Let's be real. So I'm glad that Suk is going to try to maybe dissect and look more into Johann. My fear, though, is that I have this, again, I cannot tell you my sneaking suspicion that Anna is going to get hurt in all of this, her or Dieter. So I really hope that Suk, it would be interesting if Suk confronted Anna and realized that she's, or in this case, we'll put Nina. Nina, Anna, names, am I right? And so Nina, aka Anna, and Dieter here, right? We're going to go with that. I have a feeling that there's a possibility if Suk comes in contact with Nina, he could talk with her and find out more about Johann and the whole situation, which would give him some answers. But again, I'm very nervous that something's going to happen to Anna. The sooner she gets out of Prague, the better, right? Because lots of people know, Johann is Anna, who looks just like her, and it's a problem. So there's that. And then there's all of the patients who are standing by Tenma's side and believing in him, which it's so... what's so frustrating about this episode is that we see Tenma, who seems so in despair and feels so hopeless and feels like he's failed in his mission and he's not going to be able to get Johan. But then there's all these people who support Tenma and showcase the good that Tenma has done. But Tenma doesn't even believe in the good that he's done. So it's very, very tragic. And it's like, Tenma, if only you knew sort of situation, right? But, so let's talk about this episode. This episode was very weird in how it was constructed. There was a lot going on. 1976, we have the idea that there was a letter from the friend. So 1976, we're going to go back. That Margot, or Helenka, again, the idea of names and everyone's names changing and going by different names and all of this, it's enough to make your head spin, right? But Margot, she gets the letter from Anna, right? Saying that she's okay, right? Now this is what, the present time is like what, 1995? So 1995 to 85, 85 to 75 is 20 years. So 76 would be, so if we're looking at this right, or is it 97 that's the present time? Anyway, this is about the time that the twins were born. Because at that point, the twins were born about that time, and she told her that in the letter, and that's what the Baron had, what Schubert had, that he put in all the information to Carl. Okay, so that timeline all adds up, and I'm just saying, this was the night that Carl was conceived in this here. I think it is nice to know that Margot did have a good relationship with Schubert and that wasn't a lie and that she seemed to really like him. I like that. Of all situations, the idea that Margot loved him and had a legit good relationship with him is really nice. And I think, just going off the storytell narratives here, I think it is something that's going to be kind of paralleled, that you have Margot, who had the good relationship with Schubert, the Baron, and changed him for the good. And then she had Carl, who is this child out of love, who is this beautiful, wonderful, innocent lamb, this great kid. Then you have Anna and Bonaparte, who we believe is the monster and the woman. And I don't think their love was the same dynamic as Schubert and her. No. I am curious if it was like something a lot more sinister than that. And she just in the letter said she was happy and doing all right. But that's what she had to say in the letter for it to get to Margot. Right? Because they talked about censorship and getting the letter over state lines. I feel like she doctored the letter to make it seem like, oh, everything's fine. I'm having a great life. Just don't worry about me, girlfriend. When really that was not the case. She just did that so Margot wouldn't worry about her. Right? And so then 4 years later, because 4 years later, Schubald goes to Prague and he meets Anna briefly with the twins, but I don't think things are so good, right? They don't seem as good. She didn't seem like all hunky-dory, happy-dappy when he saw her, so clearly something was up. Some things were going down, right? Which is so weird. It's around the time that Grimmer loses his son, right around those years. It's all so creepy. But yeah, she's like, I want you to call me Helenka. Just for tonight, I'm not Margot. And there we go. And so meanwhile, the monster's love letter. So we come back to Reichwein, who's talking to this one guy who's had relations with Eva, surprising no one. He seems like a peach. He seems like somebody that would have relations with Eva. It's great to see Reichwein again because Reichwein just doesn't give a shit. Reichwein has like so no qualms. He's just like, let's go. Let's do this. He is like, best old man, get things done. I've been training in the gym for 40 years for nothing sort of attitude. And I freaking love that about a Reichwein. I'm so glad he's back in the story. After all like the doom and gloom that's happened, it's great to have him back. But yeah, and so then he goes and talks to Schubald, which again, I love that we have this relationship between Reichwein and Schubald developing. I thought that the moment they met before the library burned, that'd be like the only time they ever interact with each other. No, they've been interacting. He was sent by Schubald to go to Prague and find out these things, that he could find out something about Anna or Margot. And he didn't run into Tenma or Dieter or Nina, which is unfortunate, but he was there, took pictures. I love the pictures that he took where he was just like, oh yeah, it was beautiful. Like, here's me in front of the castle. Here's me having a beer in front of it at night. Like, Grimmer is like running for his life, having his nails pulled out, dealing with this like horrible end of the world situations. Meanwhile, Reichwein's having a beer, being like, "Oppa!" It's great. It's a great comparison. But yeah, but he went to Seock Bridge and found the 3 frogs, but he didn't find anything going there. I didn't find any indication of where they were. And so it's so sad because I was hoping that Reichwein would come in contact with Tenma and Nina, and they would all meet up at the 3 frogs, and they'd all like have some sort of conversation or discuss some kind of game plan. But that's not on the table anymore. It seems like we are leaving Prague. I feel like Tenma is leaving Prague, and Reichwein and Eva are leaving Prague. I feel like the ones to stay behind in Prague are obviously Suk, obviously Lunge. The question is going to be these folks. Are Nina and Johann and Dieter leaving Prague anytime soon? We don't know. But I don't think Lunge and Suk are. I think they're going to do some more detective work there before they go back to Germany. But Reichwein and Eva, I feel like, are going back to Germany. Carl and the Baron are going to be there. Rudy's going to be there. The patients, Becker. I will talk about Becker in a minute. But I feel like all that's going to go down. And so we're still going to be kind of split between. I feel like by episode 57, we're going to wrap up the Prague stuff. Because that'll be around the time we find out more about the Red Rose Mansion. I feel like that's my prediction. I could be wrong. But we'll just have to see. And then we cut back and see the Baron giving Margot the rabbit's foot, and she just goes away. So then 1980, he goes upstairs to that creepy ass room to see her. We don't get to see the mom's face, which is so frustrating, but we see Anna for a second. She has like the same facial structure as Nina and Johann, surprising no one. I love seeing Carl there. And so Reichwein gets on to Schuwald, saying he needs to eat properly and take care of himself. And Schuwald's like, I can't do that until Johann is gone. I've seen true terror. I've seen this monster. Until he is gone, I won't be able to eat properly. Again, I feel like there's this divide between people in the story that want to stop Kinderheim from repeating like Grimmer, and people that have met Johann that want him gone. So we still have that divide, right? I'm a little bit worried for Schuwald. I've been worried about him this entire time because I feel like Schuwald, he has so much influence, and before, Schuwald dying would like convict Tenma even more. Well, now Schuwald dying will hurt Tenma even more because he's trying to help Tenma get out of prison. And I don't know. I'm kind of glad that Tenma's leaving Prague because I feel like it would, either one of two things I was afraid of was going to happen if Tenma stayed in Prague. Either he would be targeted to be killed by the Prague police while he was there, or the secret police could have saved him. So it was either going to go one way or the other and be good or bad, but this kind of makes this weird, like, it's not a good situation being in Dusseldorf because, like Becker says, he has no alibi and he has motivation. So, I mean, Becker's being the realist and saying, like, yeah, you guys want to, like, band together like you did at the hospital that one night and made a little pathway for him and you want to help him out. But Becker's like, you can't do anything. Like, you can speak on his behalf, sure. But Becker's being this realist of saying, you guys are wanting to, like, use the power of the Nakama to save him. This may be an anime, but it's very realistic. And he's like, that's not gonna float, right? And he's like, how did this monster know so much about Margot? Well, because he worked with her and knew her. So here's the thing, and that's the thing. The letter that Carl had back in like episode 37 or so, it mentioned that Margot was working with this underground syndicate that was led by somebody, but it doesn't specifically say who it was led by. So here's the disconnect. The disconnect is that we need to connect that Margot was working with Johann, and that needs to be the connection, because that could connect possibly to maybe the syndicate had ties to the murders. I don't know. But Reichwein needs to find out that it's Johann. Reichwein needs to find out that it was Johann that knew Margot. He needs to find out that Johann's the one in the letter that's being talked about. And so it's so frustrating because we, the audience, can see the connections, but the characters in the story are like one step away. They're one step away from finding it. It's like, you just want it to happen. So yeah, he knew more than my son did. And so here's the thing too. We also need to connect that Margot's friend is the mom of Nina and Johann. We as the audience know this. Lunge's figuring it out, but Lunge isn't connecting this to that. So there are different. What's so good about the storytelling in this series is that you have all these characters, and certain characters know pieces of the puzzle, but the certain characters that know one piece and the certain characters that know the other piece aren't communicating, so we can't cross that line and connect those dots to show that we can't connect the dots to show that everything's lining up. And it's so frustrating. It's like, so I'm just waiting for that to happen. And it's not happening yet. So she hadn't heard anything. And she's like, they were listening to our conversation. The twins standing behind the woman. So yeah, and so we see the two twins standing there behind her listening. They were twins. We didn't talk long because they were listening. Yeah, oh my God. And of course they look exactly the same. Like there's like a little bit more of a jaw to Johann, but otherwise they look exactly the same. I'm predicting that dad, that Bonaparte, did all sorts of crazy psychological experiments on these two. But I don't know to what extent, what that's going to be like. Because she seems pretty... And she has the purple sweater on, which the monster in the storybook is wearing a purple, like, poncho. So that's connecting the mom to the monster, right? Oh, it's so freaky. But yeah, those twins are scary. I'm like, what the hell? So then Eva comes in. I was wondering if it was either Anna, the mom, or Eva, which clearly it's Eva. Is the mom still alive? I don't think so, but we don't know. Remember when I thought the mom rescued Grimmer? Remember I thought Anna rescued Grimmer? That was a fun time way back when. Poor Tenma, he just looks so, like his mugshot, he just looks so done, which is so sad. And so then I love that Eva's like, Tenma's the man that ruined my life. I'm like, girl, you still on about that from like 30 episodes ago? That's why I say Eva is like stage 5 Klinger. She's very unpredictable and chaotic, and she makes me uneasy. She makes me uneasy because, yeah, she could do good or she could do something horribly wrong. So it's like, what do we do with you, girl? What do we do? And I just don't know. So yeah, we go back to Hess. Yeah, Hess and all them. These people that Tenma have helped over the course of the series from the beginning. Hubert, all these people. Like, everybody is just thinking about Tenma and how he's a good person and there's no way he could have committed these crimes, right? And then we cut back to old Hartman, or wait, not Hartman. Hartman was the one that was with Dieter. But, where is he right there? Schumann. Yeah, there's Schumann and Schubert, so I get them confused. But yeah, Schumann and Petra, who are like, we have to go do something. And I like that Schumann is like, look, I can't do anything to help Tenma. Her son's a cop that's right there. He'd be more inclined to do something. But I like that Schumann's like, I'm a doctor, and as much as I'd like to help Tenma, the most I can do right now is do my job as a doctor, and that would be what Tenma would want me to do. The same with the doctor that's helping in the clinic with the other Asian patients. She's like, I have to keep persevering and keep going. Even though this is horrible and I hate it for Tenma, I have to keep going because he gave me this opportunity. I can't squander it. So I like that we cut back to those two doctors and kind of tie to that moment. It's really good. And I'm like, Petra, tell your son to go do something, right? But yeah, we see that the one doctor, she's like been studying med school and she's like doing things. And for a second, it looks like she's about to give up. but then she keeps persevering, which is so good. So I really like that Schubert is going to be like, get the best lawyer we got. Like, he's like, get your crack team of lawyers. Get me a lawyer from every state. I want to help Tenma clear his name. I'm like, yes, please. Again, Carl and them are the ones that need to know about Johan and a way to convict him and tie him into this. If they could, that'd be great. It would be really great if Suk or Lunge could find out some information and get it to whoever Schubert's lawyers are. That would be amazing to help get Tenma out of jail, right? I don't know. I don't know what the case is going to be, if it's going to be something like Tenma actually going to trial. Here's my worry. My fear is that Johan or something, because my fear is that Johan is going to inadvertently use somebody to get Tenma to either escape custody or to do something crazy. And it would be beneficial to Johan because it's going to make Tenma look even more suspicious if he gets out of police custody and goes on the run. And Tenma's going to go on the run because he believes he has to stop Johan. So I am worried that Tenma's not actually going to go to trial, that someone's going to bust him out, and that it's going to become this big old elaborate thing, and it's going to make Tenma look super suspicious. And the worst case scenario is if he actually does kill somebody, and then they're like, well, he's killed one person, who's to say he didn't kill all these other people? That's my fear. My fear is that, because in the OP we see Tenma all alone, and going after Johan, and I'm like, I don't know. I would love if Tenma and Lunge could work together, but I was really hoping that Lunge would like talk to Tenma and work together with him, but no such luck, right? And so that's when we have Becker coming in. It's been so long since we've seen Becker, and just pointing out the obvious that it's just unfortunate. And I'm like, dude, Becker, come on now. I think my favorite part of the episode, well, one of my favorite parts of the episode is when Reichwein realizes who Eva is. That's one of my favorite parts of the episode. He's like, oh, wait, you're that crazy woman. And it's like, yes, she is, and this is a problem. That's one of my favorite moments. And then the other favorite moment is with Lunge. But yeah, I just love that Eva, she is crazy, right? And so then we get back to, well, before we get to Lunge, we get to Suk. And I like that Suk realizes who Tenma is. We have that little flashback with Grimmer. I'm glad Grimmer, we had acknowledged to Suk that Tenma's the one that saved his life and everything. But Suk connects that Tenma is just like him. And so, of course, Suk feels bad. He's like, damn it, this guy that's just like me, he saved me, and now he's on trial. He's like, he's in a situation that I was. What do I do? And in a weird twist of events, he takes Lunge's words of dissecting the situation and trying to doubt the person you should doubt the least, and that's Anna, and decides to like try to get out and go after them. And that's when he runs into the other cops that explain the whole situation with Grimmer. So I don't know what Suk is going to do. I'm glad that I'm glad everything with Suk is resolved. But now it's like, okay, what is Suk going to do now? Grimmer's on the run. What is he going to do? Like, what are we going to do with this? And then we go back to the Rose Mansion, which the music with Lunge and the Rose Mansion, that like big bombastic don, 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 that music is so creepy and so effective. I'm like, what is happening? And all the shots of Lunge just walking around the mansion, just examining everything and just looking into the heart of darkness. I'm like, what is going on? And then he finds the portrait and gets the manuscript from behind it, which is very interesting from behind there. Let me say this. I have never been physically attracted to Lunge ever, but him loosening up the tie and being like, hello, Chief, in that deep, deep voice, it did it for me for a second. I was like, ooh, okay. All right, Lunge. Oh, Lunge on vacation Lunge on vacation hits different. I'm just saying. But yeah, how weird for his character that he has been obsessed with Tenma and this case the entire time. But now that he's realizing that there's something deeper involved behind this case beyond Tenma. He's like getting obsessed with it, and the director's like, oh my god, Lunge, you helped us catch, you went to Prague to catch Tenma, didn't you? Look at you now, come on back. And Lunge's like, no, I ain't ready to, I'm still on vacation. The badassery of that line was amazing. I was like, oh my god. He's like, no. And I like these, he taps his fingers a little bit. And he's like, send somebody else to take him. Prague is a nice place. I'm still on vacation. I'm like, oh my god! So then, Reichwein and Eva go to try to see Tenma. And of course, they're not letting him in to see it. I like that Eva's just back there like, well, looks like we wasted our time. Reichwein and Eva are a great combination because Eva's so batshit crazy and Reichwein is so like laser focused and grounded that I'm sure he just like lifts Eva up and he's like, come on, you crazy wench, let's go. I kind of love it. I kind of love that he just doesn't pay attention to her. We came all the way to Prague and then Tenma. The thing that's so sad is like Tenma, he's got his facial hair grown out. He looks so sad there. And they're like, come on, they're transporting him. And then he sees Lunge. And when he sees Lunge, it's like the biggest sign of defeat. Like, Tenma sees Lunge and he's like, yep, you got me. Are you going to gloat about it? But he doesn't. He doesn't. Lunge sees him and Tenma just looks kind of hopeless and looks down. And Lunge's like, when we interrogate somebody, what kind of person is the toughest to crack? And he says, someone whose expression never changes regardless of the question, who doesn't say a word. That kind of person. And then Tenma like kind of looks back to him like, wait, what? Like, so, and it almost seems like Lunge was giving him some advice in that moment where Lunge's like, the toughest person to crack is the one that keeps the facade and doesn't say anything. And doesn't bow out. So it almost felt like, in a weird way, he was telling Tenma, like you better keep your head in the game because I've got my own mission and I need you to keep your head in the game till I can come back and interrogate you. Maybe I am curious to know your thoughts about that down below. That's the one exchange that I'm like, that's interesting. So I'm curious to know what you all think about that exchange because that was a very interesting moment. I was like, interesting. All right. So I'm curious to know what you guys all think about that. But regardless, Tenma kind of gets pushed aside and then he brings out a love letter from a monster to a beauty. It sounded like the draft of a novel. So yeah, this novel's pretty freaky because, you know, you expect, he's like, I've been watching you all this time. Every breath you take. Like, it's giving me very Police, I'll be watching you vibes, which is about a stalker. Not giving me lovey-dovey vibes at all. But here's the thing. So it's the idea of the stalking monster to eat up every bit of you. Like it wants to devour that person. So yeah, it's literally the monster eating someone that they love, right? And so then it goes from there saying, but instead everything about you has devoured me. So it's very poetic. It's saying that like the monster, it wants to eat its love, but the love conquered it. Which, in a weird way, goes back to the novel, because in the children's book that he makes, because the children's book has the two monsters meeting up, and then one monster ends up devouring the other. And it's the monster, which, here's the thing, if Johann, in fact, loves Nina, but wants to get back with her, I'm like, is Johann going to devour Nina? Just like the monster in the book devours the other monster. I don't know. And it says here that I wonder what I look like to you, who is collapsing into ruin. So whoever is the one that they love is like in despair. And he's like, what do I look like to you? You're so in despair. What must I look? That which you left me, which is collapsing into ruin. So it's like you're collapsing into ruin and everything you left me is collapsing as well. Like everything's falling apart. What do I look like to you in these final moments? And he said, you left me with such beautiful jewels. So is he saying that he wanted to devour the mom and like take her for himself, but in the end she ended up claiming him and then she died, I guess maybe after the twins when they were little, and he's like, you've left me with these beautiful jewels, or these twins, right? The twins who are like eternal life itself, which is pretty self-explanatory. The greatest sin is to take away a person's name. So interesting. So the greatest sin is to take away a person's name, which we have talked about that all season, all series, about the sin of taking a person's name. Reclaim your name. Interesting. Okay. So it talks about reclaiming your name. I return your name to you. Okay. To you. Which it's talking about, you know, he says reclaim your name as Tenma gets into the car. So it's like, is it telling him like become a doctor again? Reclaim who you once were? And it says your name is Anna, which is her. And I'm filled with sorrow now. Filled with sorrow. Filled with sorrow. Filled with sorrow. And then Lunge says it exists. So we have Anna. And then he says he's filled with sorrow. And then it says it exists. The many who died in that room. And a terrifying monster was born. Okay, so what do we do? What do we do? So he took her name and then he gave it back, which we've talked at the beginning of the episode about Margot having her name taken away. So Anna having her name taken and given back. What do we know about the twins? What do we know about their names? The monster's love letter felt like a poem, but it also felt like a mystery where Lunge is trying to figure it all out, and we don't exactly know what the meaning is yet. So I feel like I'm going to go back to the love letter, just like we go back to the book, and fill in the gaps as we go. I don't necessarily want what the letter means explained, because I want to figure that out as we go. But I do think it's interesting that Lunge, what we can interpret from this letter, the idea of reclaiming your name, like reclaim who you are. If you know who you are, then that's your identity, and that's the power that you have as a person, right? The greatest sin is taking that power away from someone, right? How do we translate that to Johan into now? And so, yeah, and I mean, the sin, you have the woman that was like, that took Margot's name for herself. She kind of committed a sin, so she had to go. What else can we do with that? I don't know. So, I mean, are the people of Kinderheim? What's interesting is it sounds like the people of Kinderheim would be sinners too for taking away the names of the kids, right? And is that why Johan? But the one guy, Bonaparte, seems like he was tied with Kinderheim. So there's a lot of questions up in the air about where we're going with this story. A lot of questions of who's going to Germany, who's staying in Prague, what are we going to do with the monster's love letter? What is Lunge going to do when he goes back to the Rose Mansion? Are we going to find the bodies? What is going to happen? The monster being born, is it the twins? Is it Bonaparte? Again, last episode and this episode were very much set up episodes. And we have 5 more to go for the twist section of the story before we move on to the final act. So next week marks 1 year since I've been watching Monster week to week. Which is going to be insane, right? So maybe next week will be a very eventful episode. We'll just have to wait and see. So, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 52 of Monster. Bye!